Witam wszystkich gorąco. Cieszę się, że mamy bardzo ładny nagrywek już młodzi przedsiębiorcy, którzy pożywiają się żywą czekoladą na gorąco. Zachęcam nie tylko dla młodych, ale i dla starszych, na pewno daje dużo energii. Jest to nasza 12. misja. Nazywam się Beata Romańska. Miałam przyjemność prowadzić prawie przez 12 spotkań naszą organizację, społeczność, właśnie nieformalną społeczność przedsiębiorców, osób zainteresowanych przedsiębiorczością, osób, którym przedsiębiorczość nie jest obojętna, którzy marzą o zaczęciu swojej przygody z własną firmą, którzy już mają własną firmę, prowadzą, a chcą polepszyć sposób prowadzenia firmy. Wśród naszych dzisiejszych obecnych mamy również przeszłych prelegentów, także zachęcam gorąco do zadawania pytań, jeśli nie zdążyliście wcześniej z nimi porozmawiać. Jest teraz doskonała okazja, na przykład z Mariuszem Stępskim, który opowiadał o swoim biznesie związanym z rynkiem biżuterii w Polsce. Jest z nami również Patryk Jan, współorganizator misji. Przyszła Agnieszka, która również była prelegentką na wcześniejszej misji. Opowiadała o gildii mediacyjnej, która już funkcjonuje, a której świadkiem powstania i rodzenia się byliśmy. Za chwilę połączymy się z Glenem. Glen jest to znajomy Patryka, także za chwilę ten pałeczkę przekażę Patrykowi Janowi. Oprócz tego chciałabym również podziękować gorąco, bo już 12. misja, więc troszkę mi się zdało na wspominki. Maciejowi, który z nami jest również od początku, Ewelinie, która do nas dołączyła, oraz Adamowi i Ilonie, którzy dołączyli dosyć niedawno, ale myślę, że zostaną z nami na dłużej. Także oprócz Glena, który łączy się z nami z Malty, łączy się z nami przez ToRun, będzie również czas, żeby posłuchać Justyny, która tu skromnie się schowała, ale na pewno po wystąpieniu Glena będzie okazja zadawać zachęcam. To jest to jedyna okazja, żeby dowiedzieć się czegoś ciekawego. W tej chwili proszę, zapraszam Patryka. Tak, jeszcze kilka słów do mikrofonu, ponieważ oprócz naszej tutaj samorodnej, powiedzmy, telewizji Mission Tour jest również z nami ekipa z telewizji, ale tutaj akurat nie jest jak a chciałaby parę słów uprzedzić Państwa o dzisiejszej swojej misji.
Witam Państwa serdecznie. My przygotowujemy dla teraz mamy jeden z elementów tego filmu, docierać do tego zachowania, mamy i właśnie mam nadzieję, że nic nie ma. Uczciwie informujemy, że nagrywamy i wykorzystamy z pewnością.
A jeśli ktoś chce posłuchać, to zapraszam po prelekcjach do podejścia.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Dobry wieczór. It is my pleasure this evening to introduce someone who I think is a very interesting role model. Ladies and gentlemen, Glenn Elliott is a young man. He's based in the UK. He runs a very, very interesting startup. It's called EGL, for the European Gaming League. If you don't know anything about esports, I'm going to let Glenn tell you all about it. But it's a fascinating insight into the sort of area where people are creating startups, adding value and actually you can do it from anywhere in the world. Glenn, good evening. Are you with us this evening?
Good evening, Patrick.
Glenn, please hurry on.
Hi guys, hello Poland. I'm Glenn Elliott, as Patrick's introduced me. I'm the Managing Director of the European Gaming League. As Patrick said, we are an esports company, which is, in lesser terms, a competitive computer gaming industry. So we put on events for gamers to come together and compete against each other for prizes such as money, or products or hardware. We've been going for around about 3 years. We've become one of Europe's largest competitive gaming events, mainly on console. This will be in the Call of Duty area. So if you play Call of Duty, you would normally come to one of our events with 3 friends, compete against each other for a large cash prize. We've also just started getting into the online realm. So we've grown from zero in the last year to Europe's largest online competitive gaming website. Expanded into Asia as well. Uh, we believe that competitive gaming is a way forward. 15 years ago, anyone that admitted that they played video games was considered a nerd, or they had to stay in their bedrooms. These days, it's more socially accepted across the whole world. For example, on Facebook, the largest users of gaming, small video gaming such as Farmville, middle-aged housewives in their 40s. This just shows what kind of market, gaming has become. You can do it on your phones now. You can do it on your tablets. So you can play, as Patrick said, anywhere in the world, on a train, even on a plane these days. Now, the most exciting growth that we're seeing is actually broadcasting these games that we bring together, and we've had 2 million plus people watch over a course of a weekend during our events. As you can see behind me, there's this is a gaming channel that's going on one of the world's most popular games, which is called League of Legends, where 10 people come together and it's a battle of 5 versus 5. This is currently the most popular esports game globally, with a turnover of around about $1 billion. This is all in-game microtransactions, because the game is actually free to download. So people will buy a new character, or they'll buy a skin for the character, and then the company that operates the game, Riot Games, actually invests back into the community and puts big prize money into the actual games. League of Legends is one of the games that we're investing into. Not in the higher tier, the professional players, because they get paid millions of dollars at the moment. We do the lower tier, which is more of a championship tier. We actually work with Riot, and they fully support what we do. We see this industry growing bigger and bigger. I said again, especially with the broadcasting, videos on demand is where we see where the most growth is. YouTube, for example, they release some statistics where they have 1 billion unique viewers every month, so that's 1 in 5 people in the whole entire world. And the age range of 13 to 34-year-olds watch more videos on demand and streaming than cable, so then regular TV channels. So we see this growth, especially at that age range, as a great business to get into. It's a fun business as well. I myself are a big video game player, so I'm lucky to be in a job that I love and to see this market grow from zero 10, 15 years ago to where it is today. Now, we're going to show you a short video of one of our promotions from one of our events to give you a feel about what actually happens when we actually put on an event. As you can see from some of them teams that were wearing shirts, said they're very professional looking, almost like a general sports team. You may have seen some big names like Intel, Red Bull, Coke Zero, another big sponsor that are starting to stand up and see that, you know, the biggest spenders of money, 18 to 34-year-old males, you know, this is what they're doing these days, rather than a traditional TV. So this is why we find this a very exciting business to be in, and especially from the beginning, because we've seen substantial growth over the past 3 years, and we're looking to get even bigger. As I mentioned earlier, we've started an Asian operation, of which we've held 3 events in Malaysia, and we've seen phenomenal growth in that market. We've invested heavily into a new system over the last year to propel us even further. Our current system can only handle 256 teams in the tournament. We break this week in, week out. So with a new system, we can actually go up to 2,056 teams. We're also speaking with publishers to get more feeds into the system, so everything will be automated, which will mean that it will make it easier for players to actually take part and enter our competitions. This is what gamers like to do, rather than actually do some work. But yeah, that's where we are.
Fabulous, Glenn. Thank you very much. We're just adjusting the modules at our end. Really interesting business. Just tell us a little bit about where are the biggest nations in this gaming industry at the moment?
It depends on the game. Different games work on different cultures. For example, League of Legends, which I said is in the background of a moment, that's very big in the Western world. World of Tanks is another big competitive esports title, which is big in Eastern Europe and Russia, but not so big in Western Europe. And then you have games such as Crossfire, which is the biggest game in the world, which no one's heard of in Europe because it's predominantly large in Russia, China, and the rest of Asia.
Fascinating. And in fact, if I remember correctly, I mean, having been in Korea a few years ago, their gaming industry is absolutely enormous, right?
Yes, they actually consider it a national sport. And the equivalent of the major sports channels show more esport games than they do football games, for example. That's where you get the more subscribers.
Fascinating. I have to say South Korea sounds more civilized by the minute, playing more esports than football. Ladies and gentlemen, does anybody else have a question for Glenn this evening? We've been looking at the fascinating world of tournament games. Yes, Beata's got a question. She's going to ask you her second.
Hello, Glenn.
Hello.
Again. I've got a question. What because, for example, somebody wanted to do a game with their product incorporated, what would you suggest for them? What steps they need to take?
It all depends on what the product is. So, for example, I had a call with an energy drink company today, and they was asking for suggestions, and the best for them, I suggested that they actually come to the event so the gamers can actually get hands-on rather than sponsor an online tournament, because they actually don't get to feel the product or taste the product. So it all depends on the product, and the partners that we work with, and some big household global names, we try and fit in where we feel that they should work with our clientele.
Well, I've got, for example, a jewelry company. How could they incorporate their jewelry into a game?
The best best example I would give you would would not be Call of Duty. It would be the League of Legends game going on behind me, because it's more fantasy orientated. I said there's different sets of people that play different types of games. It's like horror movies, fantasy movies. So I would suggest a fantasy game like that, maybe at the shows, making jewelry for fantasy-based jewelry.
Has anybody else got a question? Ktoś jeszcze ma jakieś pytania? Macieju? You're in game industry. There is one guy who's in game industry, but he's so focused on the microphone and working with the, our computers here that he can't really ask you at the moment. But I'm sure if they want to ask, they can also connect with you on Twitter, right?
Yes. I'm EGL_Glenn, or the company is just EGL on Twitter.
Patrick, speak.
Glenn, thank you very much. It's been fascinating to hear from you all about EGL. I know I was at one of your tournaments last year in London. It was absolutely spectacular, even if I probably quadrupled the average age in the room at the time. It's a wonderful and very, very interesting business, esports. I think it's fascinating. We really appreciate you joining us today. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, let's thank Glenn Elliott, EGL Gaming, at EGL_Glenn. Thank you, Glenn. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.